$1 million.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Yeah, looking so good, make you wanna lick your fingers. Oh, I'm just doing my thing. Looking so good, make the whole world sing. I'm just doing my thing, doing my thing.
Keep your eyes on this. Yeah. Keep your eyes on this. Yeah. Keep your eyes on this. Keep your eyes on this. You don't wanna miss it. Keep your eyes on this. Mic dropper, popping up my collar in the spotlight, and I can hear your mama holler.
I got the beat that make you dance more.
G'day everybody, how you going today? It is so good to see you. I do hope that you are super well. This moment is perhaps the most important moment for Nikon ever. This is absolutely a first. Even more exciting than the Z9 and the D3 moments. Here today we have the very first in Nikon's Z Cinema line. This is a Nikon Red Z Cinema ZR. This camera is absolutely packed with technology, but somehow Nikon has brought the price in not only very reasonably, but below their competitors, stacking in more than what they have, as well as, yes, you got it, a partially stacked sensor. When you think about the ZR, think about a Z6 III that's been tweaked, modded, lowered, turbocharged, and designed for cinema. This camera is for budding content creators, serious content creators, indie filmmakers, all the way up to the sets of Hollywood. This camera is outstanding. I've been able to use it for a couple of weeks, and the reason that I pulled all of these lenses out of the case is because I have used all of this glass and more. And what's interesting about this glass is, well, the 400 2.8 is an F-mount lens. It's adapted. It works perfectly. And the Sony there, that's the Sony 135 1.8. Again, it works spectacularly. All of these lenses and more can be mounted on the Z mount. Now, there's so much going on with this camera. What we're going to focus on in this launch video is not only lots of beautiful images created with this camera and these lenses, we will focus on the differences. What will you find that's different beyond the Z6 III? Although we will touch on some of the highlights of the Z6 III, which we're shooting on right now with the 50mm 1.8S, because the 50mm 1.2S is here as part of this beautiful gaggle of lenses that I used on this just ridiculously exciting camera. The Z6 III and the ZR, they both have that 24 megapixel partially stacked sensor. Now it runs really fast, not quite as fast as a Z8 and a Z9, nonetheless very fast. I did some testing with the Ronin RS4 Mini, the latest gimbal to come from DJI, and this little camera here and this gimbal, which is very light, very powerful, very smart, work perfectly together. And you might be amazed to know that some of the shots that you saw in that opening were shot with the 85mm 1.8S on the ZR, on the gimbal, with me running around chasing Lucia, and those shots are spectacular because that combination of this camera, which is extraordinarily light, along with that lens, is only just over a kilo, with the payload of this device being 2 kilos, working really well. And thus, I was able to test out rolling shutter whilst driving around in a car and getting some B-roll, as well as some quick movements, quick pans, and I saw no sign of it. And this is the thing about rolling shutter. 99% of the time, it doesn't even show itself because it's only when you're moving very quickly. But if you do, well, this sensor has got you covered. What else do we find inside a Z6 III/ZR? Expeed 7, of course, which brings us a whole raft of advancements that we don't find in Expeed 6 cameras. We've got 8-bit, 10-bit, 12-bit video. We've got N-Log. We've got N-RAW. We've got ProRes RAW, and we've now got Red RAW as well. We can shoot up to 6K, 60 frames per second in Red RAW and in N-RAW. This is bananas at this price point, which we're going to get to very soon. But really, It is so much camera, yet it's lighter than the competition and it's cheaper than the competition. This is an extraordinary effort by Nikon to have a little moment where they say, look at me, look at what we can do, and we can do it just as well, and perhaps, if not, better than everybody else. Of course, the Z6 III and the ZR have amazing in-body image stabilization, but I think this unit is even better than the one in the Z6 III, running at 8 stops of stabilization. It's a lot. And what we've found with Nikon is when they say 8 stops, they mean 8 stops. And I can tell you, shooting handheld with an 85mm or 135mm lens, handheld. Most of the shots in this video, which don't include Lucia, are handheld. Everything I did with Lucia was on the gimbal. That's because I was running after her. I kind of thought, if we're running, that makes sense. Plus, I wanted to test how the gimbal works. For example, you can plug the gimbal in. You can choose to control ISO or other things, as well as record from the controls on the gimbal. Already out of the box, these two things are talking to each other. Thus, in-body image stabilization is amazing, and you can, well, make it even more amazing, of course, by putting it on a gimbal. What does the ZR have that a Z6 III does not have? Well, the highline is, of course, those red codecs. 12-bit red color science and compression. The other advantage of having the red codec and the red color science is this now pushes this sensor to over 15 stops of dynamic range when we're shooting in red RAW. Another big change, which is something that you might say, well, Nikon's never done this before, but they actually have done it before, and it wasn't that long ago. And that is the first implementation in Z series cameras of a digital hot shoe. Yes, this camera has it. And that makes sense because this is not a photography first camera. This is a video first camera, and thus you might want to plug various different things into this hot shoe. On launch, we have this amazing microphone which just has such a space age design from my perspective, giving you fantastic audio capabilities. But of course, a digital hot shoe is capable of doing all sorts of things, and in the past, Nikon have made digital hot shoes that have removable EVFs. And that segues us over nicely to, well, does this camera have an EVF? And the answer is no, it doesn't. And at first I thought, well, that's a problem. I love using an EVF. It's going to be difficult for me. Nikon thought about this and they've come up with the boldest solution that you could probably think of, and that is a really large screen. And the screen is 1000 nits, which is as bright as your contemporary iPhones or your Atomos Ninja. And the size, wait for it, it is 4 inches diagonal. That's almost a whole inch more than what we have on all of the other cameras in the Z range. It's huge, it's bright, and it looks beautiful. It still takes your ENEL. I suppose that includes the A, B, and the C, although I've only tested the B and the C, and well, they are the bee's knees. They both work fine. It's probably hard to get a sense of scale. It basically takes up almost the entire back of the camera with just enough space to get your thumb and 3 buttons in here. And here's this enormous screen. And for a guy that loves EVFs, it was like, how am I going to go without an EVF? But in the end, this has a completely different style of shooting. I found myself, when shooting handheld, cradling it the majority of the time at my waist. And that is the perfect height to have the screen out and in this sort of configuration, where you're looking down at it and you're able to shoot like so. Absolutely fantastic. And thus, not having an EVF was not a problem for me at all. And of course, holding down here and shooting, and you cradle the lens sort of like this, it allows you to have a more stable platform in a way than from being up here. At the end of the day, appropriate fieldcraft made the experience the same, if not better. And the screen is big, it's bright, and I just really enjoyed using it. There is far fewer buttons on this camera, but again, it's been designed for use case, and I kind of don't really understand how Nikon did it, but pretty much everything I needed was quick to access. You've got 3 programmable buttons here on the top. You can program them to do whatever you want to do. Standard joystick on the back. And then this is your I menu button here. If you long press it, It's your menu button. And to me, that is just so smart. So this button does two different things. Really, really cool. And we have playback. Power is moved over here, which again makes sense because they've done something super duper cool. This here, this is a zoom controller, spring loaded. It even has a little lever here, which allows you to have even fine grain, just super granular control. And that's where you want it to be. You hit record and then you can do a slow little zoom. Now, whether that is mapped to a lens like the PZ over here, which I have used in this video, and you're zooming optically, you can map that to this, or you can do a high-res zoom and map it to that. Either way, this is how zooming should always be. A lever that you've got fast or very gentle control over. So that's another major change. Also, another thing I really like is down here, we have a separate record button. And of course, that helps if you're in a cage or you are sort of shooting with your hands down here, cradling the lens, then you can button on down there as well. We do have a video photography switch and we don't have any function buttons at the front. This camera is designed to be either loaded into a cage. Small rig cages are coming very, very soon. And at the end of the day, video shooting is a different craft to photography. It absolutely is. You just kind of don't need the same level of buttons. So that's okay. It ended up working really well for me. Now we still have aperture and shutter front and back where we would expect to find them. Now this is this digital hot shoe. It basically looks the same as any other hot shoe, except it has some teeth in there which allow it to communicate with things like microphones. I'd love to see an EVF because you could. If you wanted to shoot EVF style, you could have a tilting EVF, which Nikon have made them in the past. You could shoot this sort of style. That would be cool. This digital hot shoe is certainly capable of that. Digital audio and digital what else? Who knows? The reason I have the Holy Land out here today is because it does have a digital interface for other brands of cameras. And I know that we will be getting digital interfaces for these kits that plug into here as well. So you're getting direct digital audio. Now let's talk a little bit about that audio because that audio is next level. No one in this segment has sound like this camera. It is 32-bit float internal. And of course you can bring it in digitally or you can bring it in via the jack, which is on the side here. And we will get to the jacks shortly. 32-bit audio. Also, this camera has extraordinarily high quality microphones built into it using some technology created by Nokia. Remember them? And this allows your sound to be directed towards the front, towards the back, or omnidirectional. I haven't had a chance to test that in full, but I believe it's extraordinarily high quality and you're going to get great results just from the built-in microphones. So we've got this amazing sound, 32-bit, which we don't find in any other Z camera. We've got the red color science and compression algorithms. But we've also got absolutely everything else that's in the newest of Z cameras, and that being the Z5 II. So this includes things like product mode, where you can hold something in front of your face and it'll pull focus on that. It's got the selfie timer countdown. You can hit record and it'll give you 10 seconds to come down here and sit around and some big numbers will come up on the screen. And it's got everything else, pixel shift, skin smoothing, and so on. Another thing that I was somewhat surprised to see built into here, because Nikon lenses are so good, we actually have focus breathing compensation. Cool. Maybe that's because we're going to be mounting some other brands of lenses who need a little bit more compensation than Nikon's current line of lenses. Another really cool thing, if you're worried about not being sure whether you're recording or not, here is our on button and we get a lovely little green light to let us know what's going on. Tally light, which can be seen from above. It can also be seen from the front. Love the tally light. It's super useful if what you're doing for a job is making videos every day or every second day. You want to be able to sit in front of your camera like I am now and have absolutely no fear that you are rolling. You don't want to be sitting here and talking for half an hour and not be rolling. The tally light makes that clear. We still have the red box that's around the edge, but the tally light is even easier to see at a distance. Let's talk about the build. The build to me is one of the coolest parts of this camera. I mean, it's all cool. It's extraordinarily well made. My guess is it's made out of magnesium alloy, and it's basically just milled out of this shape here, and it feels absolutely rock solid. There is no question about that. And the materials on the front here, it's strange, it's flat, but they've put these indentations in exactly the right spot, which actually allows you to grip it and hold on to it. And this is another interesting aspect of this camera. Let's keep in mind it is still very much a Z6 III, which means you can absolutely still use it for stills. It's actually a really cute, really compact camera. Doesn't need lots of buttons because you can just sort of slide it in your pocket and you've got yourself a beautiful little camera as well. It is a stills camera and it has full stills functionality. Everything a Z6 III has, even the 20 frames per second in RAW. It's all there. Amazing stills camera on top of it being the best, right now, the best video camera that Nikon make. Sure, a Z8 and Z9 shoot 8K, but they do not have red compression and red color science within them. Now, I'm recording this a little while before this is actually launching, and it's currently flagged to be $1,999 USD without taxes and $3,499 AUD with taxes. This is an extraordinary price, cheaper than the competition, lighter than the competition, more capable, both from a video specification and from an audio specification. It's kind of like you can't lose. It's pretty awesome. Now, this is one thing where some people might, they might go, well, I wish that wasn't the case. But when you realize that this is the battery, and if you think about the size of the battery, they've fitted a battery in there, and they've got a sensor, and they've got IBIS, and they've got everything else. There was literally no space to get a big HDMI cable in there. So the first thing I want to talk about is it is using HDMI micro. I get it. I prefer the larger size because it's tougher, but I also get that, well, they've made this small. And how often do I use HDMI? Very rarely. And what Nikon have done to make it even easier for you is, unlike most cameras, you've got raw internal recording, and unlike most cameras, you've got a 4-inch screen. So you don't really need a 5-inch monitor attached to this to be able to see, because this is so big. And you don't need HDMI for your webcam anymore. Using the UVC UAC protocol, you can get up to 4K 30p through your USB-C port. That HDMI port, I get it, it makes sense. They've traded the size of the port versus the size of the overall unit versus, well, how often do people actually use HDMI, and how often will they actually use it when they've got a 4-inch screen and amazing internal RAW codecs, of which there are 3 in RAW, ProRes RAW, and Red RAW. I mean, living the dream, or what? USB-C, which does all the things that USB-C does, charge and webcams and download photos and all those sorts of things. And then we have audio in and audio out. And that's all you need in this day and age for a camera like this, especially when you've got a digital hot shoe, which sky's the limit. We definitely know it could be an EVF, and we already know that it's going to be for sound. Like the Z6 III, it can shoot up to 240 frames per second in 1080, 120 frames per second in full frame 4K, and 60 frames per second in 6K and 5.4K. Now, who's this camera aimed at? Well, it's basically aimed at anybody who wants to shoot video, all the way from a vlogger. You can spin it around and you can shoot vertically in anything up to 6K if you want to. It's got a vertical interface, so all of that will work super cool and super easy. All the way up to being able to be used on a professional set, because it has the same look, the same color science, and the same outcome as other Red cameras. This is an astonishing companion, and of course, from a Hollywood action perspective, it could absolutely be used as a crash cam, and you could have them all over the place. Extraordinary level of technology in such a small and affordable package when you're talking Hollywood level productions. Now, from a Red perspective, the camera actually supports log 3G10 and red wide color spaces. And the advantage of these color spaces is they allow for a high degree of post-grading, post-production changes in color temperature and exposure levels. And Nikon states, because I haven't had a chance to test this because I don't own my own red camera, that this camera will integrate perfectly into a red production workflow. When you are shooting in R3D, you have access to the dual gain components of the sensor, which allows you to shoot at either 800 ISO or 6400 ISO. The noise drops significantly when you jump up to that second or dual gain. In N-Log and N-RAW, it's 800 ISO or 6400 ISO. And yes, this is done with hardware. There's basically high and low sensitivity circuitry that's on the sensor, which allows you to get this advancement even at these high ISO levels. And the fact that you can actually go in there and choose to use it, well, indeed, that is another first for the ZR. The only codec that you actually have control to go between those two base ISOs is in Red 3D. Now, of course, this does have Expeed 7's very mature level of autofocus, and Nikon is stating that it can see a face in as small as 3% of the frame. Now, I haven't measured this scientifically, but of course I've been shooting with this camera, and indeed it does pick up faces at a very long distance that are very small in the frame. I'm not sure if any other company goes even further than that, but I seem to remember on the launch of the Z8, it was something similar, perhaps a slightly higher number than that, and that was world leading at that point in time. 3% face recognition, that's awesome. And it shows the power of the Expeed 7 being able to scan these images and to pick a face out of them that small. Low light focus acquisition is still down to -10 EV, which is class leading. Shooting Lucia as we walked around the city at night, it was able to see her and keep her in focus in very low light levels. Now you might say to yourself, this is very small, how does it go recording these high-end codecs in such a small package and not overheat? Now, I haven't had time to test every permutation at multiple temperatures, but sitting around the 20 centigrade mark, I've run a few tests multiple times, and recording in 6K 24 frames per second in Red 3D, I was able to achieve a full 2 hours. The camera did not overheat. It showed no sign at all of overheating, and when I touched the camera, it was just warm, sort of similar to skin temperature. And the reason it stopped recording is actually the battery went flat just shy of the 2 hours and 5 minutes. It was around 2 hours. If you plug external power into it, 2 hours, 5 minutes, no problem. And that's in the highest end codec. That means NRAW, 10-bit, all the others are going to work fine. But basically, you can get almost the full runtime with that massive codec, the Red 3D codec, one battery, absolutely no sign of overheating in 20 degrees. This is astonishing to me, and Nikon have gone to a lot of trouble to try and make the heat dissipation, they say, around the level of a Z9, yet there is no fan in this device. We'll need more time and more testing. It's winter here where I am, so I can't get you 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not possible. I'm very impressed by no sign of overheating at all when touching the camera. None. And this is with the battery door shut. And yes, the screen was out because that's how I was looking at it. That's how I was using the screen. But this is a brilliant result. Because this is a video first camera, the design of the graphical user interface has changed a little bit. It was still very familiar and everything felt much the same, but it is a little bit different. Plus there's a second menu that gives you a whole lot of video focused features. And one thing that a lot of people will be super excited about is in-camera LUT monitoring. Yes, you can see your colors on the screen. You don't have to wait until you get back to your computer to get any surprises. This is a just genuinely helpful tool. It does have shutter angle, as we've started to see in some of the other Expeed 7 cameras. There are 3 onboard microphones that are using Nokia's Ozo audio technology, and that gives you 5 different patterns of the camera being able to listen. And of course, it wouldn't be a Nikon if it is not extremely well weather sealed, which it is. Nikon also state that it is at a level of professional cinema cameras, along with having the great heat dissipation. By playing with this camera and seeing its heat performance versus its ability to run these amazing raw codecs on the fly, whatever processor they've got in there, it is a very, very good, very, very efficient. It runs cool and it uses low energy, yet it can give us all of these raw codecs and run from a relatively small battery. If you think about other larger cinema cameras, they will run from V-mount batteries, which are huge, and well, they definitely draw more power. There is some excellent heat management and power management magic sauce going on inside the ZR. And yes, when it comes to weather sealing, if you're worried about that new digital hot shoe, they've redesigned the hot shoe cover so it kind of covers the outside. It doesn't just sit inside it, but it sits outside it. So it's like an umbrella. It's actually wider, as you can see there. Plus, it's rubberized, not plastic. There's no chance of getting anything in there, which of course is important when you have a digital hot shoe. The camera's announced, and I tell you right now, as of you watching this, I don't have this camera anymore, and I can't wait. This will become my main camera for what I do on YouTube, as well as some of my other professional work, because of its battery life, because of its screen, because of its amazing processing power, and because of that 32-bit float audio. You have all of these options built in this small, light, very easy to use package. And the price point, well, the price point is ridiculous, as we talked about before. But we all have to wait until sometime in October. The exact date is not set, but it's going to be something like a month from this video being launched. What do I think about this camera? Well, I think you probably know. I think it's an extraordinarily exciting first step for Nikon. Absolutely. This is starting a new chapter in their world, pushing into the cinema space and looking for new markets. And really, they've come out of the gate so hard. It's absolutely packed with technology at a killer price. And then, of course, you have the Z-mount advantage, which is you can use all the Z-mount lenses, which we're nearing 50 at this point in time. But then you've got access to 300 or 400 F-mount lenses, which adapt superbly. And then we have lenses like this one here from Sony, which worked superbly on the Nikon ZR. So we've got the best of all worlds. We've got vintage glass, we've got Z glass, and we've got E-glass, along with a whole lot of other adaptable mounts, because this is the largest and has the shortest flange distance. If I was a budding filmmaker and I wanted to get a camera that allowed me to have a professional level outcome, here it is. And the price point is bananas, and I have access to almost every lens that I can find in the world. Right now, I think the only lenses that you can't mount on this today are the Canon RF, and even that might be possible one day. There's just such an extraordinary opportunity to come from this amount of power at this size, power in your pocket, and just an enormous array of glass. This is only the beginning of Z Cinema. This is clearly a line, a range of products that will be coming today, but Nikon is absolutely knocking it out of the park with this first foray into a Nikon Red co-production camera. I love it. All right, everybody, I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Please, any questions? I'm going to do a live stream as soon as I can after this launch to answer any of your questions. So please put them in the comments below. I will get them all together and try and answer them in the live stream. All right, it's been so good to see you. And if this is your first time here, I would love to see you again. So please do subscribe. Please share and please like. All right, bye for now.
Keep your eyes on this.